June. We're really pleased with it. And a big thing that we're trying to do with this too, speaking of the Rust Belt, is that it really kills me that, you know, the cool things go on in New York and San Francisco. Like, that's where real art happens. And like when it happens in Philadelphia, it's local. You know, it's quaint and patronizing. You know, that this goes on. And when you see what's happening in these cities with the decentralization of media, there's just so many beautiful things happening in Detroit, in Cleveland, in Pittsburgh, in Philadelphia, and all these cool cities. Baltimore. I mean, there's great scenes, there's great bands, there's great art, there's great people and great minds, and we really tried to celebrate that. So this is Jahemus coming to terms with that through agreeing to edit this for us. So this is his essay. We found it on our desk. It was in an envelope. I sincerely thought that when the Head and the Hand Press first approached me to edit their forthcoming Rust Belt Rising Almanac, the invitation was due to my doctorate in sociology with an emphasis on ethnography, and the accompanying doctoral dissertation, Gentrification in Being in Williamsburg. My first master's in urban geography, my second master's in urban anthropology, my dual undergraduate degree in urban studies and studies of urban people, my YouTube lecture series on gender, race, and class in high school girls field hockey, and my most recent position publishing my own zine, Being Gluten-Free in America, the impression of an entire eating class. I must also admit that I considered refusing the request. The prospect of collaborating with a small press did little to pique my interest. And the fact that their only title was the pseudo-biographical manifesto masquerading as literature on a topic as impractical and unproved as urban farming, written by their founder no less, had me drafting my declination letter. If it wasn't for the fact that my research grant to study the effects of reading romantic poetry aloud to street dogs in Mexico City lost its funding, I probably wouldn't have taken their offer. But here I am, sitting in the basement offices they so quaintly dubbed the meat for the workshop. Meat locker would have been more appropriate due to the temperature and the way the cold from the concrete floor is seeping into my metatarsals. Thank goodness someone has the sense to put sheetrock up, for I try not to imagine the condition the bricks of this building are in, and what creatures are inhabiting the crevices. While I was writing my doctoral dissertation, I surmised that if gentrification was inevitable, then at least the damn buildings would have heat. But I digress. I truly believe that my aforementioned magnus opus would be the exemplar gratia, the piece de resistance, to direct this project towards something that would make Wittgenstein, Heidegger, and Weber proud. I unilaterally intended to tell the story of the Rust Belt with the keen analytical eye of the academic, and it was not easy to wrestle away the submissions from the totalitarian capitalists that run this company, but I did. And I only had to read one submission before I wished that I never had. My mea culpa came while reading the story, What Type of Girls Wear Lipstick These Days. How will I ever explain to my fellow faculty members in the Women's Study Department that I could have ever sanctioned such Kerouacian chauvinism? A young man driving across country on some chaotic quest across the Midwest to Philadelphia of all places, lacing the narrative with disparaging witticisms about the woman he had left and the gas store attendants he encounters. I must admit, I did have a chuckle when he contemplated the note he would write after riding the elevator to the top of the Gateway Arch. But how could I justify this temporary lapse in my sensitivity to my inner feminist? Then there was the story Pebbles, a seemingly innocuous title to a story that completely refutes every shred of clinical study pertaining to the theories of codependency and addiction. I'm not sure if the author meant this as double entendre, but analyzing the title of the story in relation to what happens to the story's antagonist, let's just say, does not bode well for someone who possesses both an X and Y chromosome. Submission after submission, I experienced these Rust Belt cities in a way that my grad school guided field tours and even my coursework as an ethnographer could never have prepared me for. I felt the uneasiness of staring through a chain-link fence. I choked on the fumes from the factory outside of Pittsburgh that the manufacturing-minded Keynesian economists believe will lead our society back to its previous glory. And dare I say, I felt a certain affinity for the je ne sais quoi of the streetwalkers captured by Jeffrey Stockbridge's lens. Despite the degree of skepticism years of study at elite institutions will breed in a scholar, I could not help but feel a guarded optimism that the Rust Belt is in fact rising. Yes, as reductionist as it may be, Cleveland is a vocation for a person willing to forego personal gain to serve his fellow citizens. Yes, it is inspiring that even with a serial killer at large, a young photographer will return to the place her family once lived to prove that they did not toil in the factories for naught. Yes, Sports may be completely sexist, barbaric, and oppressive, but I can now understand why spectators stand and cheer when a team from one of these downtrodden cities actually wins. And yes, above all theories of gentrification and class and race, ice cream may just be the triumphus maximus for the revival of America's Rust Belt cities. If I'm being honest with myself, the ivory towers of academia and its condescending bourgeois criticism echoing within could take a flying leap, or rather, the critics could take a flying leap off the said towers. Damn it, I feel reborn. I do not need to hide the fact that I might actually find more satisfaction constructing one of the desks in the Head and Hands workshop than constructing a vicious refutation of a fellow colleague's research. Or that I find more mental stimulation talking to a geriatric from the neighborhood than I do discussing socioeconomic policy with the GA. Or that I sometimes like to indulge in a 2 a.m. egg roll from the Chinese takeout place underneath the L with a 3-inch thick glass at the counter. Maybe I'll never go back. Maybe I'll just stay here in Kensington. Maybe I'll buy a shell, learn how to hang sheetrock to hide the creatures in the crevices and start a new life. Maybe I'll discontinue my account with the university grant-finding database and willingly join the ranks of the highly educated who are taking jobs for less pay and more fulfillment. Maybe this is the start of my new life in the Rust Belt. I wonder if Little Baby's Ice Cream is hiring. Yours, James Joyce, Zeitgeistman.